Welcome back. Tonight, assuming that the server stays up, I haven't checked how long it has, we are going on a trek up to northern Iran, taking off from Al Manad in the F15e Strike Eagle, and we'll be bombing an enemy base. I'm sure it's going to be a very uneventful flight, but you never know. We are on Grayflag Persian Gulf. Every once in a while I get intercepted by the Iranians, but, you know, it's not too common. But I figured with this nighttime adventure, it might be fun to share it with all of you and let you see what I get up to in my free time. You know, when I'm not doing enlisted or whatever else.
Al Manad, bird 1 taking off on runway 09.
So we're going out tonight with 4 times AIM-120Cs, 6 times GBU-38s, and 2 of the Penetrator 2,000-pound JDAMS. This will be my first time using the JDAMS since they were updated a few weeks ago, but it looks fairly straightforward, so hopefully we won't run into any hang-ups. We do have a long trek ahead of us though, so we'll probably cruise up to 35,000 feet, cut the burner, and ride it out up there. Most of our fuel can go towards getting us there. I'm not too concerned with fuel coming back since we're only going back to Larn. That's probably only about 100 miles, and if I'm being entirely honest, we could probably drift most of the way there if we absolutely had to. I don't think that'll be an issue though. The button carries a ton of fuel. This will, however, most likely be a pretty long, pretty boring trek that I may well have to cut the middle out of. I know it's kind of pretty with the sun going down and with Dubai down there, but I also know it gets a little bit boring just watching the night sky go by. I do rather enjoy the F15e. It's definitely been one of the more fun and exciting planes that I've picked up. Looking forward to the F4 coming out. It should also be a pretty good time. I rather like the F14, so I don't think Heapler can do anything bad at this point. So we will level off here, throw it in altitude hold, and away we go. Actually, I probably need to fix the course a little bit. We probably will have to do that 1 or 2 more times before we get there. All in all, looking pretty good. I really need to get a proper throttle with afterburner detents. This works for me, the way that I have it, but every once in a while when I'm in the western plains that don't have afterburner lights, I like to go out and make sure that I actually don't have my afterburner on. I mean, you can see down here there's a line for millpower, so we can actually probably get a little bit more out of it. But a lot of the eastern planes actually have lights that'll light up in, say, AB or this relic equivalent. And some of them have afterburner cutoffs, like switches that you can hit. This one does not, but I don't mind too much. It's not really that big of a deal. Actually, for funsies, I can probably turn on. There we go. I believe we're getting a bit of lightning. There we go. So, basically, what I'm playing with here is the nav FLIR. And the nav FLIR basically uses a pod that's mounted underneath the plane, and it lets us use it kind of like night vision projected onto the HUD. When you're near the ground at like low altitude, it can sometimes be a little bit disorienting because it's probably sitting about 6 or so feet, maybe 7 feet below your head. So things will sometimes look like they're places where you don't quite expect them to be. And it's also offset a little bit because you have your T-pod on one cheek and you basically have your nav pod on the other cheek. But to be honest, it's a really nice system. At least when you compare it to using night vision goggles, which I completely forgot to put on. Here, I can make it even darker. Put our visor down. I'm kind of used to not having night vision though, since I fly the F-16 and the F-18 quite a bit, and normally I'd rather have the helmet sight. Other than that, I think we just make sure that everything's squared away, and then I'll probably cut out all the nonsense in the middle. I doubt you want to sit here with me for the next 29 minutes while we fly from point A to point B. I mean, I can absolutely talk for 29 minutes, but it'll probably be about nonsense. But who knows, maybe for funsies. So we can't change that yet. Open memboxed. Fantastic. Alright, we'll probably start on the GB-38s. So the GB-38s are the little ones. They're like 500-pound GPS-guided bombs. The GB-31Bs are 2,000-pound hardened bombs. They're designed for puncturing bunkers and reinforced hangars and whatnot. Yeah, I wish I had something more exciting to show you all while we go from point A to point B, but, you know. It's the only issue with late game Grayflag. If you want to fly certain planes, you have a very, very long trek ahead of you. I mean, we started at over 300 miles, so I'm already at 240, 250. We'll be looking to start picking up targets. Well, we'll probably start bringing up the T-pod and making sure everything's squared away around 40 to 50 miles out. depending on how everything's performing, we might be able to pick up targets at 30 or 40 miles, but a lot of the time on Grayflag, I don't have them loaded until I'm about 15 miles out. But that's not too big of a deal. Hopefully, though, we don't get intercepted. I don't usually sit on the AWACS channels in Grayflag, mostly because the core game AWACS kind of annoys me. If I could set a tripwire distance so it would only let me know about things, say, within 50 miles, I would absolutely use it, because even though the bra calls aren't the best, they're still useful, and I still like to know when things are around me. But the problem is, you'll go flying out, and you'll be merged with a flanker, and it'll be like, bra, 100 miles, it's like, dude, I don't care about the, like, MiG-21 at 100 miles. I don't care that there's an F5 at 150 miles. I care about the SU-27 that's, like, a mile in front of me. Or I care about the MiG-29 that's, like, 30 miles hot and to my left. But, yeah. I mean, it probably isn't going to be too much finish. Like I said, I don't get intercepted that often on Grayflag, and I should pick them up on my RWR before then. So it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Although, I say that knowing full well the last time I was out here, I took off. I think I was flying a Jeff, and I was going to do some sort of strike mission, and I ran into a pair of F4s that were coming down from Iran, so, I mean, it's happened before, don't get me wrong, but it's usually not a big deal. Plus, I think somebody was talking about being cap or needing cap in-game recently, so I'm sure they've got it squared away. No problem, mate, no problem. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I could talk about what I think of the F-15 in general. The F-15 as a platform is fantastic, and in game it's lived up to basically all of my hopes of what it would be, and it's only been out since the end of June, early July. It came out fairly limited in what it was capable of, in that it only had access to laser-guided bombs, and it has a lantern pod, which is very usable. However, if you actually plan on lasing targets, you have to be below 25,000 feet, which isn't the end of the world, but it's also not ideal. It makes the plane do very, very well at low altitude interdiction or low altitude striking, where you can toss a bomb. I think one of the most fun and interesting things to learn how to do in this plane when it first came out was to get up at a decent altitude and get a high resolution radar map of an area, because this is probably the best air-to-ground radar we've gotten in the game, and you can pull radar mapping images that look almost as good as what a satellite image would look like. Like, a lot of the planes in this game, like the F-18 for example, they just have like radar beam mapping, and so if you've ever seen like a weather map on TV when you've got like a storm coming in, right? It's basically just different shades of green, where the different shades denote different things atmospherically. So if you take what you understand there and apply it to a ground radar, it's kind of similar, where you'll have different shades of green and different shapes of green that denote how reflective of radar something is. So I know that there are people that play this game where they'll look at this like fluffy green mess and they can tell you exactly where you need to hit, because they've just stared at them so much that they understand it. But for those of us peasants out here who look at it and just see like a pile of green mush, normal air-to-ground mapping is kind of crap. But then when you get into an F-15, because you can do these high-resolution maps, they're like night and day. You can clearly see not just what's there. Like you can look at a runway, and you can see that there's a runway, and then you can see that there's 3 planes parked next to the runway, and you can tell what planes they are because it's just that detailed. It's amazing. But anyway, going back to what I was talking about before, one of the cool things to learn with this plane when it first came out was to make a radar map of an area, to target it and direct your T-pod to the target that you found from your radar mapping, and then to get really low, really fast, and pop up and do a laser guided bomb with through a toss bombing pattern. So you basically nose up, throw the bomb through the air so it arcs, and so you're able to launch your bomb from a lower altitude further away so you don't have to overfly the target. But then because you've got the laser targeting pod, you're not just relying on your ballistic computer and hoping that you're accurate. It'll actually guide the bomb in as long as you can keep the T-pod from masking. And so there's a little bit of finesse in flying so that your T-pod constantly can see the target. But it's really cool because you can get into areas that are like more contested with more short-range air defense than you'd normally be able to get into. And it's not something that I really spent a whole lot of time doing in other planes before, because if I fly an F-18, for example, because that's probably my most flown plane, is the F-18. The F-18 has so many bells and whistles, and it has so many tools available to it, that if I can find 1 or 2 other people to also fly F-18s with me, I can basically approach any situation that you can come across in this game, and we can just dismantle it. It's like, if you take the air war going into Desert Storm, and you take it from being a massive campaign, and squish it down to being a nice little compact, like, 4-man objective, that's the F-18. So, if the enemy has, let's say that there's a base, and I want to go blow up that base. Well, if I've got the F-18 and 2 friends, then either 2 of us can go out and suppress their air defenses while the other 2 guys strike it, or we can all go out and destroy their air defense network, come back, and then we can strike it. And it just depends on how much time we have, how many of us there are, and, you know, what we feel like using that day. But, like, you have all of the tools, and they're all little scalpels to deal with all of your different little issues. It's like if you've got a toolbox, and you've got, like, the little package of miniature screwdrivers for dealing with really small screws, and you've got all of them, so you can deal with every type of screw out there, right? That's basically what the F-18 is. It's not super pretty, it's not super fancy, it's not the nicest or flashiest plane in the world, but you can throw just about any problem at it, and it will eat it for breakfast. It's honestly amazing. But the F-15 did not come out with those kinds of capabilities. The F-15 came out basically being 1 step above an Iron Bomber. Like, it could carry a ton of ordnance, but most of them were dumb weapons. Which is fine. It made it really interesting to fly it, because it made it so you had to think outside the box and approach objectives with tactics that you otherwise wouldn't have used before. Because it's really easy with an F-18 to fly out with a bunch of TALDs and harms and just go ham suppressing enemy radars, and then come in with JSOWs or JDAMS or whatever, right, and destroy all of the launchers, right? Like, you can be really slow and methodical, and you can just go step by step, and you can destroy the enemy radars, destroy the enemy launchers, come in and destroy the base, right? Or you can come in and you can take slammers, right? Slam ERs. They're basically cruise missiles, right? But they've got a TV data link so that you can guide them in when they reach their terminal phase, and you can tell them to like skim mountains and do turns, and they can fly for, I don't know, 150, 200 miles, right? They're very, very long-range missiles. So you can sit here and you can be like, oh, the enemy base has like a mountain on this side. Let me just take 4 of these, wrap them around the mountain, so that the enemy air defense will have almost no time to deal with them when they're coming in. Sure, they're probably not all going to make it in, but if I shoot 4 of them, I can definitely get at least one of them through, if not 2, if not 3, right? So there are a lot of different ways you can approach objectives with the F-18 that make it really easy, right? With the F-15, you have to be below 25,000 feet, so you're in range of just about everything. And you also have to get close enough to laser your target, or drop like a ballistically computed iron bomb on just about everything. Like, you don't have cruise missiles, you don't have seed missiles, we didn't have any GPS-guided weapons, so getting the JDAMS now is really, really nice. Now let's just hope that when I get there, I don't colossally fuck it up. Because, like I said, this is going to be my first time using JDAMS on here. At least based off of what I was reading in the manual and what I'd seen in some videos, it looks like it should be really simple to just designate each one of the various JDAMs on there and then come through and pop them all off. But, you know, we'll see. I still, even looking at what the F-15 can carry, I still think the Harrier is probably the undisputed king of base striking, purely because you can take 10 different JDAMs, mark 10 different targets, and pop them all off, and you can do it in probably under a minute. Obviously the Harrier is not the fastest plane in the world, so there's some, I guess, added risk there, and it does have some systems that don't like to play nice together, but at least when it comes to dropping JDAMs off of it, it does very well. You know, I don't know if I actually, no, I didn't set my bingo. I did another flight earlier, so if I forget to set a few things, it's because I flew out in this plane earlier, and I'm being a little bit brain dead. Anyway, that being said, while the Harrier can carry 10 500-pound JDAMs, I think, no, I need to double check. I think it can carry the 2,000-pounders, but if not, it's the 1,000-pounders. So, like, when it comes to the heavier weight stuff, this absolutely has it beat. I was really curious to see if we could put the JDAMs on the outer wing pylons while we have air-to-air missiles, because decidedly one of the things that I could not do before is put laser-guided bombs out there while I had AIM-120s. It was limited to being fuel tanks. But it looks like, well, not it looks like, I literally have them on here. I have the 2 penetrators, and I've got the 4 AIM-120s on, and I absolutely love that. It's amazing. But it looks like I can also carry 4 more on the conformal pylons. Basically, where I've got 3 GB-38s on each side, I could instead do 2 2,000-pound bombs on each side, which is really nice. So I could fly out, theoretically, with 6 2,000-pound bombs. A lot of the hardened bunkers, they're really popular on the server in objectives. I'm actually not entirely sure what we're going to find when we get out here to this base. Hopefully we can actually take out everything that we look at, but if it turns out that it's a bunch of the hardened bunkers, these GB-38s are just going to bounce off. I mean, they'll blow up, but you get the idea. They'll effectively bounce off. But in theory, we could come out here with 6 of those, and usually it takes about 2 per hardened bunker. So you could blow up 3 of them. If you fly out in the F-18, usually you can get 2 reliably because you carry 2 under each wing. And if you fly out with the F-16, you can get 2 because you carry 2 penetrator JDAMS and then 2 Pavoy 3s, the GB-24. You can do about the same with the Jeff. I think you carry like GB6s on the inner pylons, and then the 500 kilo glide bombs. I think they're glide bombs. They might be the same thing as JDAMS, just not American, on the outer pylons, and that works. But the point that I'm making is that by and large, most of the time, with most of the aircraft in this game, you cap out at taking out 2 of them on a sortie. And usually to do that, you're giving up something. So like, on the F-18, you can carry your centerline fuel tank, and, you know, in theory, if you needed to, you could probably aerial refuel. Same thing with the F-16, but if you do it on the F-16, you're giving up your jamming pod. If you do it on the F-18, you're not really giving up much because there are limits on what you can put on your center pylon. But like, if you're in the Jeff, you don't really have any legs. Like, if you're bringing a full loadout to take out these hardened bunkers, that means you're putting your WMD pod on your center pylon. You have no fuel tanks. So you either have to aerial refuel with it, or it has to be very close. Because the JF-17 is basically like a Chinese export competitor to the F-16, so it's a cheap light fighter. I like it a lot in game, but the biggest drawback it runs into is the fact that it doesn't have a dedicated separate pylon for the WMD pod. Now, as I understand, later versions of the Jeff do. Now, I haven't gone and looked for like documentation or pictures in real life, but it's just something that I've read online that other variants of the Jeff do have the other pylon to mount it on, but that's not something I can do in game, so I always have to give up a pylon that either could carry fuel or another weapon for the WMD pod. So it can be a little itty bitty bit rough flying the Jeff. It is an awesome plane though. It can basically do everything the F-18 can, except it can't land and launch off of carriers, you know, reliably. Doctrinally. I mean, you could probably put it on a carrier, and you might be able to Cat 5 it off the carrier, but like, you can't hook up to a catapult, and you're probably going to bust the landing gear trying to land.
I'm on that traffic, Viper 1-3 is taxiing out for runway 27, taking the afternoon now, departing out to the west.
And then in addition to that, you don't really have the legs that the F-18 has. But other than that, it's the only other plane I can think of that carries cruise missiles, which I like. I like interesting smart weapons. Pretty much everything in the game has some sort of, not everything in the game, that's a dumb statement. Pretty much all of the modern planes have some sort of JDAM now. And most of them have some sort of laser-guided bomb. And then even some of the slightly less modern planes will have laser-guided bombs, even if they can't guide them themselves, right? But there's only 2 planes in this game that I can think of that have cruise missiles. And you have anti-ship missiles on the Viggen. And as I understand, there's a way that you can use them kind of like a cruise missile, but I haven't read into it, and it's not really what they're designed to do. But effectively, the only 2 that have cruise missiles, and the only 2 that have cruise missiles that you can guide after they launch through a data link, are the Jeff and the F-18. But yeah, we're actually getting kind of close to our target. We're about 69 miles out, and Yeah, we'll probably switch over and start looking to do shit soon. That does not look fun, whatever that is. I don't know if something's burning down there, or if something exploded, or if that's a plane that's kind of close. I think that's on the ground, but it doesn't look like it's moving much. I can't tell. Look, I know that there's like an easy solution to this. This is what, like 325 we're heading. That's probably like, I don't know, 290. We can definitely look at the map. I don't think, yeah, that's not a plane. That's something on the ground. I just looked over and I was like, wow, that's bright. I think something blew up or crashed there. Anyway, just gonna quietly hope that whatever that was a bad guy, or not something that we're gonna have to deal with. See, look at that. So much fuel. And we've been flying for so long. Imagine being able to take your car. We've probably flown 200, 250 miles already. Imagine being able to do that and still have your fuel tank look like that. This thing is massive, though. So they have these penetrator bombs that they dropped out of, or off of the F15e, and they dropped them out of the F111. They're like 5,000 pound penetrators. Actually, if you read about how they came about, they're really interesting. They actually made them out of gun barrels, I believe, for artillery pieces. But going into Desert Storm, they wanted something that could puncture command centers, and they basically whipped them together in like 2 weeks or a month. I don't know the date specifically, but it's a really interesting story. Anyway, the point is, in the manual for this, it's listed there. So one of these days, we're going to get an absolutely enormous penetrator bomb, and I cannot wait. I'll probably only be able to carry like one of them, but hey, if they ever let me carry like 3 of them, be the end of the world. Like, MiG-21 nuke, move over. Alright, we are at 38 miles. Let's start getting set up and rigged out. At point 3. Oops, that's not the button I want. Expand. White hot's fine. Master arm on. Alright, so we should see targets populate there in just a little while. And actually, we don't want this, we want 2s. And run the GB38, so that's fine for now. You know, I could have done this with my HOTAS, but I'm being dumb. I swear we're not flying straight at that. Something like that's probably fine. Anyway. Hopefully we'll see things pop in, we can start marking targets, and we can see if I absolutely potato dropping these JDAMS. Jury's still out. I'm thinking I probably potato dropping the JDAMS, but you gotta learn somehow. Yes, Mr. Taxpayer, of course I understand exactly what I'm doing with this multi-million-dollar piece of machinery. I would never fly out without knowing exactly what I'm doing. On the plus side, we don't have any radar warnings yet, so that's pleasant. Yep, there we go. Alright, so that's hardened. So we will designate that, and we will hit our transfer button. Cool. Next station. Designate. Transfer. Fantastic. Designate. Transfer. Designate. Step. Transfer. And you know what, just for good measure, let's hit these one more time. So designate, transfer, and designate, transfer. Okay. Now, we're in zone, but I don't think we want to drop like this. So we're going to turn out, and we'll reapproach. Oh boy. Watch, now I'm going to get us killed. Can you imagine if we flew all the way out here just to get blown up by a fucking SAM site? I mean, I joke, but you'd probably be amazed at how many times I do stupid shit like that. See, right now, it's just, you know, little warning beeps. You'll be able to tell if they launch at us, because it's gonna get real angry sounding really fast. Anyway, we'll probably fly out to about 10 miles. You can see the range and the time to release right there. We're at 8.2 miles. We'll probably go back up to 35,000 feet. I'll probably lose altitude in my turn because I suck at flying. And then we'll probably turn back in around, well, we're at 10 miles. So we'll probably turn back in around now. We are an afterburner. I thought about setting up the penetrators for this run, but I want to make sure that we actually get this drop right first before I go switching which air-to-ground program we're in and setting up the other ones. The smart move, though, would have been to fly offset to the target instead of flying at it the way that I did. But admittedly, part of this is also just a limitation of flying on Grayflag. I find if other planes are in the area, I can see things at my actual loading distance, which I think I have set to something like, I don't know, 60 miles, something like that. But the problem is if we're not dealing with that. Oh, hell yeah. Alright, so that's all of them away. come out of burner. We're gonna roll out to the right this time. Isn't it nice that we're at war and they left their lights on? We've about a minute to impact. What I can probably do is go back into altitude hold. Go to armament. Go to program 2. HOTAS down, 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 down. Next station. Alright, fantastic. Then we can zoom in. And we can say that we don't like this particular bunker. And we can export. Step and export. And then we can turn back in. You know, I should have kept the T-pod unmasked. We're going to turn back in and there's going to be a bunch of smoking holes in the ground. I'm literally taking all the excitement out of this, and I apologize. We will make all attempts to make this next flight much more exciting and fun than the last one. Even if it gets me killed. See, look at all that smoke. They did hit. Alright, let's see. We are in range. We are going really slow though. We are in parameters, but not in really nice parameters. It's because I'm flying like a jackass. Anyway. Okay, I can't get these ones to drop. That's interesting. I dropped the other ones, no problem. I might actually have to be in tighter parameters for these ones to work. Because these ones, I'm not sure what their default impact angle is. I think it's normally set to 60 degrees. But because they're penetrators, they might require tighter parameters. So we'll fly out and give it another pass. They have SAMs down there, but, who cares? We're in F15. Who cares? I'm so bad. Anyway, after this, we probably have 150 mile trek down to LAR, and once we get down there, we will land. I don't remember if LAR has ILS. It shouldn't matter. It's pretty clear out. And I usually use like a landing system that involves using like a waypoint that I place at the end of the runway. So it's usually not an issue. I know that the F-15 actually has an inbuilt system for landing at waypoints. I just don't think it's been fully implemented, but the ILSW system kind of worked, or ILSN, I think. Anyway, I think it's ILSN. Anyway, this time we are coming in from further out. I don't think there's a release angle. We should get a bomb fall line. Navigate onto that and pretend that we're dropping laser-guided bombs. And we will hold pickle. Alright, see, it worked much better that time. As it turns out, when you don't fly like an ape, you actually get to drop your weapons. Amazing, right? we're gonna climb. We're nice and slick now, too. See, time to impact is 39 seconds. I do appreciate that we get a time to impact. Not everything does. And while we go up, up, and slightly away, we can watch for our impact in 20 seconds, and then we can turn south and get the hell out of here. Let's see, time to impact, 10 seconds. Well, there you have it. It looked a little bit like it overshot to me, so I'm not 100% sure. I need to, next time I fly out with a sortie like this, see if I can set the impact angle. And I probably also need to set the designation point to be at the base of the bunker instead of the middle of the bunker. The thing is, the way that your T-pod works, it's looking at an angle, basically. And because of that, if you aim at the bottom of something, you're usually more likely to hit it, because if you aim at it, sometimes you'll create a point that's essentially behind it, which is what I think I did there. It's one more thing with if you don't fly like a jackass and you actually do things the way that you're supposed to, things work right. But this is my first outing with this, and I haven't really taken the time to learn how to do everything by the book for it. So, yeah. Alright, so, new heading, 143. Stay at 35,000 feet. We're 161 miles out at 12,000 pounds of fuel. We'll probably afterburn until we hit our bingo at 4,000, at which point hopefully we'll be close enough that I can just throttle down and coast in. We're not going to go through 4,000 pounds of fuel between wherever we bingo and when we hit LAR, but you never know. Be lazy and stick my autopilot back on. It really is pretty out there. I love flying at night. Suppose once we get close we can actually turn on our exterior lights and not be all spooky. We're absolutely hauling ass though. See, that's our speed in knots up there. We're going 493 at 35,000 feet. That's our Mach rate there. We're going 1.3 and climbing. One of the absolute most enjoyable planes to fly in this game has got to be the Mirage 2000. One of my friends and I were striking shipping back in the spring in the Caucasus. And let me just tell you, the Mirage 2000, it can absolutely cruise. So we flew out there being generous for our fuel because, you know, it was like 100, 150 miles out. Wanted to be able to make it back to shore and land. But, you know, for funsies, we, on our way back, climbed up to like 40,000 feet, threw it in burner, and we're going Mach 2 like the whole way back. We probably spent half an hour flying out there and then made it back to base in like 10 minutes. Absolutely a joy to fly. I love the way it maneuvers. I wish that we had the two-seater variant, and I kind of wish that we had the pod that came with it so that we could do, like, self-lasing for ground targets. I don't always have a buddy to fly with, you know, like right now I'm out here solo, and I'm sure if I asked one of these fellas on TACCOM to come and lace targets for me, I'm sure that they would do it. Usually people in Grayflag are awesome and they're happy to work together. You can deploy your own JTACs too, I guess, but that takes like time and preparation. Ain't nobody got time for that. Let's see, how was our fuel? 9,000 pounds. So we are chugging through fuel now. If you don't know a whole lot about the F15, I'm pretty sure it shares its engines with the F16, at least on certain variants of both of them. So if you kind of imagine having two F16s strapped together, that's kind of what I am. It's a fun way to imagine it, at least. But the F16 absolutely guzzles fuel. So even though I carry a ton of fuel, when I'm just sitting here in burner, we also just shoot through the fuel. Still, I'm pretty sure I set my bingo for, yeah, 4,000. Just screwed it up, there we go. It's at 4,000, so when we hit 4,000 it should yell at me, and when that happens, we'll come out of burner and try to take a more economical approach to flying back to base. But for the moment, we still have like 4,000 pounds of fuel to burn. We actually might cut out a burner at 6,000 just to be safe. It'd be a real shame if we slammed into a mountain near Lar. But at the same time, we're also only 8 minutes away if we stay in burner, which is kind of nice. Let's see, this is us. This is Iran, obviously. I didn't open the map for y'all earlier. We took off out of El Manad, which is right. No, that's Al Dhafra. That's Dubai International. I thought Al Manad was like right around here. Ah, Al Manad, right here. So we took off from basically the middle of the UAE, and we flew and we struck up here in Iran. Southern Iran, mind you. We can't get up into northern Iran. And we are going to land down here at Lar. Eventually, we should take Shiraz, but right now Shiraz is red. And even if we did take Shiraz, it wouldn't be resupplied, so I'd only be able to get fuel there. And if I go back out, it'd be nice to have more than just fuel.
Colt 2-2 inbound.
Let's see, we're at about 6,000 pounds of fuel. 6 minutes, 86 miles. I mean, we are cruising. We're at 35,000 feet, so fuck it. We'll ride it down to 4,000 pounds, and at that point we'll throttle back. Hopefully we'll get to be around 30, 40 miles, and we'll be descending, and then I won't even be sitting on the throttle at all. On the plus side, it doesn't look like anybody's actually at Lar, so I shouldn't have to worry about traffic. Because Lar is our our furthest north base on the west side, it often sees a lot of traffic with planes that are either resupplying after running strikes up here, or planes that are stopping there, either because they don't want to air refuel, or, to be honest, air refueling when you're going this far north is because they usually fly around down here, right? You can get further up to Lar and, you know, land, take off, and go. It doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. I suck at air-to-air refueling, so I'm one of the peasants that'll land at Lar. .300, 66 miles. Alright, we'll throttle back. It will extend our trip back a little itsy bitsy bit, but that's fine. Probably go from like being 5 minutes out to being like 6, 7 minutes out. Admittedly, the time to the waypoint isn't going to be accurate because we're going to have to slow down between here and there. Unless we just do an overhead brake over the airfield, which we could do. We'll figure that out when we get closer. Honestly, quiet night. Pleasant, but quiet.
Bingo, fuel. Bingo, fuel.
Yep, see, there we go. 4,000 pounds of fuel, we hit bingo. Stop blinding ourselves and invert that. Let's see. Yeah, we don't have access to it yet. Let me see. What is our runway heading? 090. Let's see, 090. No. I'm doing this wrong. There we go. Okay. It's been a minute since I've flown this. I was flying it a ton for a while there, but then I slowed down for a bit. Most recently I was flying the F-18 and the Jeff a lot, and a bit of F-14. I was working on my night carrier landings in the F-14, which, let me tell you, they're the single most heart-pounding, like, adrenaline rush you can get in this game. See, it's pretty easy to see out of this plane. It's got a nice open canopy. You can actually see out the front, especially if I turn the nav FLIR off. The thing with the F-14 is that the front glass is kind of opaque. So when you're flying it during the day, it's not that bad. When you're flying at night, it's kind of hard to see out of the front of the plane, to be 100% honest. But it does give you HUD queuing, so as long as you set it up correctly and the boat doesn't start turning or doing weird shit, it shouldn't be too bad. But, you know. See, there's... I don't know, you guys can see my SRS. Alright, so, up on the left, those radio channels are basically the radio channels that I'm on. The bottom one is the airfield frequency for all of the airfields out here. No one's on it right now, so normally I would call in and say something along the lines of large traffic, Warlock 1-1 inbound, 20 miles northwest. Right, and then I'd call back in and, like, 10 miles and say that I'm on final for runway 09 or whatever, right? But nobody's on the channel, so I don't have to do that. I mean, technically I don't have to do it either, but, you know, it's polite. You never know when somebody else is in the area, and crashing is bad. Mid-air collisions are a big no-no, right? We wouldn't want to crash our multi-million-dollar plane into somebody else's multi-million-dollar plane. That would be so unfortunate. Alright, ILSN. That is 090. Alright, hopefully that'll work the way I want it to. Even if it doesn't, to be honest, I really don't care. We're going to be able to see where we're going, so it really does not make a difference. It is a very bright and clear night, and Lars should be like right out there. I think. I'm trying to remember what it looks like during the day. Yeah, that's it right there. Oh, somebody's on the channel. LAR traffic. Warlock 1-1, landing runway 09. Sometimes I'm fancy and I'd be like, single ship Muddin, taking runway 09, or, you know, whatever, right? But, look, the point is, just to let people know what you're doing. And like I said, it's so clear and it's so bright out here that, to be 100% honest, we really don't need the nav FLIR, and we really don't need the landing assist, which I also think is fucked up. I'm pretty sure those dots are supposed to line up with the runway, and it doesn't look like they're going to. But that's okay, because we know what we're supposed to be doing. Although we are a little bit high, and we're a little bit fast. But I'm not worried about being fast. We don't have flaps down yet, we don't have our landing gear down yet. I'm sure that anybody here who's actually flown a real plane is fucking cringing, looking at me. They're like, oh my god, he's on a 7-degree slope. Oh my god. I know, I should be on like a 3-degree slope, but it is what it is. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. We'll flare before we hit the ground. I promise. It'll be smooth sailing, buddy. No worries. I am, like I said, more of an F-18 pilot, so there's a really good chance that I'm going to smash this thing into the ground, because that's how you land an F-18. You basically just smash it into the fucking ground.
Low altitude, 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 low altitude.
Alright, and we flare it. And we did that thing that I said we shouldn't do. Let's see, aero brake, aero brake, aero brake, and we're down. That was actually probably more nose up than I probably should have ever done, to be 100% honest. I wasn't sure while we were sitting there if I actually had, like, dragged the ass of the plane. I don't think so, but, it did sound a little bit rough. We did bounce a little bit off kilter. Large traffic, Warlock 1-1, clear the active. Let's see. Let's turn this off so that I can actually see what I'm doing out here. Well, thanks y'all for anybody who stuck with me for this whole trek. It's been a bit of a ride. We did hit most of our targets. I'm not sure about the last one. I'm pretty sure that the bombs sailed, but if I go back out there, I can do a better BDA and figure out exactly what I didn't kill. All the little targets should be dead, though. So I should be able to go back out with nothing but penetrators if they've got them at LAR, and just absolutely decimate and lay waste to anything else that's out there. if people like my DCS content, I might do more of it in the future. I might actually try to, fly properly and do things more by the book and be less of a flying ass monkey. But I kind of like being a flying ass monkey. I'm good at doing stupid shit and getting away with it. So yeah, thanks for coming. I appreciate you watching me, and welcome to LAR. Don't forget to grab your bags on the way out.